Whereas excerpt 1 was all about technique, excerpt 2 is all about tone. And the first thing I want to remind you is the tenor clef. So many times this can happen to a student where they go into an excerpt situation, orchestral excerpt situation, and they play something for someone and they forget the tenor clef. This happens to cellists all the time. So you really want to make sure that you see that tenor clef and that you're playing in tenor clef. The first major point about this one is the rhythm and the counting. And one thing listeners look for in orchestral excerpts is that you're holding all of those notes to their full value. And it's very easy for us bowed instruments to cut off those half notes and whole notes and tied notes especially. So you really want to be sure that you are holding those whole notes and tied notes out for their full value. One particular measure that I would like to point out is measure 27 to 28. There are two different half notes, and it's kind of the end of a phrase and the beginning of another phrase. So where I mean is starting in the third beat of measure 25. So you really want to not cut off that last half note at the end of that phrase in the beginning of another phrase. You don't want to do this. Did you hear the cut off? You don't want to do that. You really want it to be connected. And it's an up bow, so it's a little bit easier for you to connect that. You also want to make sure that in the beginning of this excerpt, those tied notes are given their full value. It's very easy to do this. And you're cutting off that quarter note that's tied in with that whole note. So you really want to hold it out its full value. You can really hear that tie. Your listeners will be listening for those kinds of things in your rhythm and counting.